Christine saved my life. She screams because there's a car that just went off the road. It cued me in that something was going on, and I turned to face it. Looked to my left, and there's Quinton. He was not hit. He was where I would have told him to go, between the back of the Suburban and the still hitched trailer. I saw his eyes were open and non-responsive. I give this detail so people know we have the pain too, because I don't normally talk like this. I start talking immediately about.
This is the Lost Child Podcast, where we delve into the topic of losing a child.
Before we get started, we've noticed that only 20% of you are subscribed. One small way that you can show your support is by hitting that subscribe button. Our goal is to get this metric to 50%. As we gain subscribers, we can attract some of the most influential thought leaders in this space, which will help us all. It doesn't cost anything, so just hit that subscribe button. Now, let's jump into the podcast. Thank you, Ernie. I appreciate you for being willing to be on the podcast.
I'm honored. Thanks for inviting me.
Just to jump right in, can you share with us a little bit about your story? And I assume it was your son. I know you a little bit beforehand because we got to meet you, but can you share with us his name?
Quinton Stone Jackson. Wow. And with me, everything's a story, but Quinton Stone Jackson, he was 9.5 years old when he transitioned.
And then any tie, I love asking this question because people always have like a tie to the name of maybe it's a family relationship name or somebody that you knew in high school or whatever it is. Was there anything special about his name? Well,
there's a story behind his middle name. We're going to call him Quinton Cole. Mm-hmm. So I had a family member, a cousin somewhere named Quintana, and it got our attention. So we zeroed in on Quinton, and then it was going to be Quinton Cole. But then Christine, my wife, had a kidney stone. Probably she was 6 months pregnant, and we had to take her in. She was going into early labor. And at that point, we changed his middle name from Cole to Stone.
Oh. That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Hey, get ready. Get used to it. Here we go. So that's some fun.
Can you tell us a little bit about Quinton?
Yeah. Quinton, he is the gentlest, the most gentle soul. He, an old soul, old eyes. He was there for everybody. He was there for his classmates. He was there big time for Christine. Because we moved from here up to the hills of Conifer, Colorado, and Christine was without her family, her parents, and Quinton was born, which was a incredible surprise because we didn't think we could have any more. He was always there for her, and there's so many memories and experiences. One of my, it helps that I've written a couple books, and I always had the sense in writing about Quinton, at some point it would be for me. I saw somebody on your program said they wrote a journal and wrote notes down about their child. And she said, it's great to have that to help. So Quinton had the nicest, I'm a former athlete, a former quarterback back in the day. Wow. And Quinton had the best spiral. I love playing catch with my son, whether it's throwing a football, shooting baskets, throwing a baseball. And to answer your question a little bit more about Quinton, I kind of had a sense many times when we were playing catch, he was doing it just for me.
Yeah.
Because he knew I needed it. Maybe he didn't need it, but he knew I needed it. That's Quinton.
Oh.
Wow. Yeah, I can relate on some of that of being an athlete, wanting to like go throw a ball with your kids. Our oldest loves to read books. I hated reading books. And there's times I think he probably throws a ball with me because he thinks I want to throw a ball, right? Mm-hmm. What are some of your favorite memories about Quinton?
The things we did, we would always walk hand in hand. I was always with him. I mean, we were always together. He typically, when we go down to our daughter's Cheyenne's soccer games, we had to divide and conquer. So he would go with me. And I'd be playing the music loud and annoying him. So I was, Radar Love was one of my favorites. And I'd turn it up and sing, and he'd look at me like I was insane. But he was always there. As I shared in my first book, I was a slave to my job. I defined myself by my job. And sometimes I'd be up at 3 a.m. at the computer. And he'd get up to go to the bathroom, and peek downstairs and say, "Dad, are you okay?"
Wow.
So there's just thousands of those stories.
Mm-hmm.
He coordinated the community activity. We had our neighbors. They had several children, and many his age, and summers he lived for. He would get all the kids together and create games and make the rules and be out all day long during the summertime in 9,000 feet above sea level in Conifer, because you can't do much in the winter except play in the snow. His last year with us in the physical realm, we always had a fire pit, because that's what you do, and made him the foreman of the fire, which was a big responsibility. And he did. He took it serious.
It's cool.
That's awesome.
I'm actually starting to do some stuff like that with our kids. And I say, this is important because when you're 16 and you want to take the car, I need to know that you can take care of the fire pit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you start showcasing some of those little things that I need you to take care of that are big to them at the moment, right? But in the grand scheme of things, maybe a little bit smaller, to showcase like, hey, I'm trying to teach you for a future that you take responsibility.
And that's what we do as parents,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and that's always been my vibe. And since he was always with me, I'd be, 9,000 feet above sea level, we'll get a lot of snow.
Mm-hmm.
Have the snow blower, and he want to walk alongside of the snow blower while it's blowing out snow. And I teach him, it's like, no, you can't do that, because if I hit a rock or a pine cone, it's not going to go well for you. And he, always teaching, and then pointing out the new growth, the new trees. I mean, because you get these little baby pine trees, or then pointing out the new growth on top of the more mature pine trees. All those are great memories of, teaching, showing, being together, but always together. I've got pictures of us just together.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've got a story like everybody else. I mean, my dad was a piece of work. We all have frustrations, and he'd often take out his frustrations on us, Mom and the kids, when he got home. And I didn't want to be like that.
Yeah.
So if I was frustrated, I'd come home and go downstairs and veg in front of the idiot box. And one night he came down. I'm watching Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Mm-hmm. And
he sat there with me. "You're okay?" "I'm okay." We sat there and watched
Star Trek.
Yeah. And I can speak to this now because I've started rereading my first book, which, it sounds really strange. I mean, I wrote it, had it edited. I've spoken about it hundreds of times. I never really read it like a stranger. So I'm beginning to read it like a stranger. So I just read a couple chapters about Quinton. And I'm remembering this moment where we're watching an episode of The Next Generation. And Data's the android on The Next Generation. And in this particular episode that he came down to sit with me, Data created a son. And the son felt emotions. And Starfleet was going to take Data's son, which is gut-wrenching. Timing is ironic.
Yeah.
Coincidental, synchronicity, all those good things. But we watched that episode together, and Data's son passed away before Starfleet could take him.
Wow.
How far down the rabbit hole do you want to go? I mean,
well, first, let's get some context
okay,
too,
good.
and understand. One, there's two questions I have. One is, where did Quinton fall in line with like your other kids? Because you said he was the baby, yes?
Yeah.
And then what was the age difference between, and then from there, if you can kind of take us through how he died, how he transitioned, to use your verbiage, and we can kind of understand that.
From your perspective,
yeah,
too.
from your perspective.
Oh, of course. Quinton is the baby. He's 6.5 years younger than his sister.
Okay.
And they had an interesting relationship. He again, gentle, loving. They typically didn't get along at times. Funny thing is, when Christine and I would go out for date night, this is going to sound strange, but Quinton would take care of Cheyenne. That goes back to the old soul vibe. So the accident itself.
Yeah. And like she said, the best way is kind of almost you take us through a narrative of like your experience where you were at.
Yeah. I can go on and on and on. I do want to start by saying we my wife, my daughter, my mother-in-law, and I, which I found odd, kind of had a premonition that something was going to happen.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
And I've, like I said, talked to a few people over, the past 16 years, and I'm shocked at how many share similar experiences. But we had a intuition that something was going to happen.
Like on the trip that you took? Okay.
Yeah. And I mean, to underscore it, like, I'm a guy, I'm an athlete. I don't feel, I'm not in touch with my emotions. I mean, I'm more better now, but I felt change. So and the only way I could express it was I cleaned up my office. I had a good job. I needed the job. And over the course of weeks, I cleaned out my office because I felt change. I mean, that's how strongly I felt it. So the vacation's coming up, and we just happened on the vacation. Vacations were the only time of the year that I really, truly connected with my family.
Yeah.
Because typically I give it all to the world, give it all to the job. I define myself by my job. I try to, make everybody better, provide services to my clients, on and on and on and on. It's a disease. And we changed our vacation plans this year to avoid death. Like, what are the odds? We live in Colorado. We always go to Rocky Point. Worked up in Yasco. That was the year of the swine flu. And there was a cartel killing or something in Rocky Point, and our immediate family said,
don't come.
You don't go. Somebody's going to die.
Yeah.
And I'm like, fine. I'm ready. I mean, that's kind of where I was in my life. I mean, I was getting to a point where I just wasn't at all pleased that I gave my best to the world and had nothing left for my loved ones.
Yeah.
So when they said, you might die, I'm like, okay.
Is that retrospect though? Or is that in the moment you still felt that?
No, that's in the moment.
Okay,
That's how introspective I am, how introspective I was. And it's in the first book.
Okay.
Which is just like, I put a lot in there that I'm like, wow, I kind of told it, didn't I? But we changed our plans. My wife is patient with me. As most wives are, right? She's patient with me. So we decided to go to Lake Powell. And a friend of ours let us borrow their trailer and their jet skis. And even that, it was an adventure in a negative sense getting down there. We kept getting flat tires on the side of the road, 18-wheelers going by. And again, it's like, there I am on the side of the road at 3 a.m. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, I didn't run, but it wasn't me. Mm-hmm. So we went down there. We had a great time. Quinton was different. And there was a lot different. Christine was different. She did things she doesn't normally do. She brings food, and she brought all of his favorite meals. She realized this afterwards.
Wow.
We don't give our kids soda. She brought root beer, his favorite. He had all of his favorites. So it's like, what was going on there? That's a rhetorical question. Quinton was different. He spent a lot of time staring off. I mean, he's 9.5 years old.
Yeah.
Old soul, gentle soul. But he spent a lot of time. I mean, you've been to Lake Powell? Mm-hmm. It's
big.
Incredible. And the rock formations, and if you look at the rocks, what do you see? Different for everybody probably, but I see faces. And he was afraid of speed. Like, he did not want to be on the jet ski with me. And that was new. And he didn't want to go down the water slide on the houseboat. He was afraid of the impact with the water. And one time he wanted to go down, but he wanted to wear goggles. I'm like, no, if you hit the water with the goggles on your face, you're going to cut your face. So he didn't go down the slide at all. So my point is we had all this whirlwind of energy around us indicating things were different.
Yeah.
I still haven't answered your question. One more story real quick. I had a premonition the day before that Quinton was going to die. And I woke up because I was dreaming. And it was one of those, dreams are blurry. Those dream visits or message dreams are crystal clear. This was crystal clear. It was at an odd time. It was at dawn, probably about 7 a.m. on the water. And I dreamed that and a big boat came into the cove we were in, big wave, swamped us. We're underwater. I'm trying to get to Quinton. I've got a bad arm, so I couldn't get to him, and I woke up because I couldn't save him. And I tell him, and I tell Christine of my nightmare.
Yeah.
And Quinton says, in a voice that truly wasn't his, he said, Dad, I won't happen like that. I'll just swim away. And it was the next day.
Wow.
So the accident itself.
Real quick, one thing I want to relate to, just it keeps coming to my mind, is one of the other guests that we had on the podcast also had his son die at Lake Powell.
Oh, wow.
And he called it just a dread come over him the day before. And they couldn't explain it. They couldn't understand why. And he's like, I don't know. I thought something would go wrong with the houseboat or anything. So he didn't have this dream or something, but he just had this dread come on him. Just an interesting, similarity.
Thank you, Blake. Thank you for sharing that. That's, I mean, I'm 16 years down the road.
Yeah.
So I came from a place of complete, total ignorance.
Yeah.
I had no religion. I had no God. I didn't know anything about death. I was a coward. If anybody around me was dealing with the transition of a loved one, I was gone because I didn't know what to say and I couldn't fix it.
Mm-hmm.
That was the stage that I worked from, where I began to receive Quinton's signs and visits.
Okay.
So the accident itself, we pack up. I got new rubber on the trailer. I'm doing everything to be safe. We're coming back. We're on Highway 160. We turn up by Technos Pass to go through Four Corners. And I had stopped 2 or 3 times to check the trailer. And I get up to just into Colorado on Highway 160. It's just past mile marker 1. And I'll go to pull off again. I'm like, something's not right. And I pull off, and the axle on the trailer snaps.
Oh,
wow.
gosh.
I was actually happy. I'm like, done with this trailer. We'll be home in 6 hours.
Yeah.
So pull off. We are 30 feet off the road. Christine calls the owners of the trailer, and they're dear friends, and they continue to be dear friends. It's not their fault.
Yeah.
We're 30 feet off the road. I'm transferring some gear I have on the trailer to stuff into the back of the Suburban. Christine calls the owners, tells them the trailer's going to be in Cortez. She's on the phone with AAA, and all of a sudden she screams, like a scream I've never heard. So, to understand me, the driver's side of the Suburban, our vehicle, and our trailer is 30 feet off the road.
Yeah.
We're on the passenger side outside the vehicle. I'm on the passenger side by the end of the trailer. Christine's on the passenger side ahead of the car. She screams because there's a car that just went off the road. At this point on Highway 160, it's a bend. It's a little bend. So this young lady, and we've gotten to know her, spent time with her, and we can talk about that too. She fell asleep, and she went off the road. She started to hit the hills, must have woke up and tried to correct, entered our area where we were, airborne and bouncing. Christine saved my life. Because when she screamed that scream that I've never heard, it cued me in that something was going on, and I began to hear something, and I turned to face it. Otherwise, this airborne and bouncing Pontiac Sunbird would have hit me on the small of my back.
Mm.
Wow.
So I took the blow on my hip. I walked up afterwards, probably within a year or two afterwards, to a Pontiac Sunbird on the street, and it comes to my knee. That tells you how far airborne it was. It hit me on my hip. Took me out, launched me. They measured 18 feet. Sideswiped our Suburban and trailer with so much force, the whole rig violently moved. Ripped off the passenger side front door. Christine's watching all of this, and it's, in a flash. So I think in her mind, she was trying to run to safety, to be in front of the Suburban as opposed to out there exposed. She never made it.
Mm.
She was hit by this car, ended up underneath it,
Oh, wow.
torn and twisted. broken fibula, broken ribs, tire marks across her waist.
Oh my goodness.
Bumper hit her in her head somehow, some way, or some part of the car. And there's that. I still haven't told you about Quinton.
I know.
I land, because I was airborne. Dust, bumper that's not ours. My wife's torn and twisted body. My mother-in-law running to Christine. Look to my left, and there's Quinton. He was not hit. He was outside the vehicle. He was trying to get back in. He was where I would have told him to go. He was between the back of the Suburban and the still hitched trailer.
Yeah.
But when this young lady that we've gotten to know very well hit our Suburban, it violently moved so much that his legs must have been up against the trailer. He got whiplashed into the back of the Suburban. I know, because afterwards I could see where his head hit.
Yeah.
Oh
And
my
then landed
goodness.
on the lip of the trailer and had this gash.
Mm.
I know this is part of the program. And I've spoken hundreds of times. And I give this detail so people know we have the pain too, because I don't normally talk like this.
Yeah.
I start talking immediately about the signs. But
Yeah.
that accident scene, we have the pain too. Now, Christine, and you'll talk to her, she doesn't have the memory of that. And I'm grateful,
Yeah.
because I saw dirt in my son's braces.
Mm.
I didn't realize, I didn't understand it, but his eyes were open and non-responsive. Didn't understand it. You know, performing CPR, the Good Samaritan came and trying to save him. Yeah, that's not where I dwell. But yeah, I have it. I'm bleeding from the forehead. I have road rash. Through all this, the young lady, and I'll go ahead and say her name. Her name is Amanda. Fell asleep. Student going home. She comes up because her car went off the road to that.
Yeah.
She goes to Christine and my mother-in-law, Nellie, and my daughter, Cheyenne. They're all there. And I almost find it hard to believe, but I understand Cheyenne looked up to Amanda and said, everything's going to be all right. Which is like, doesn't sound like my daughter, but she has a gentle soul too. Then Amanda ended up where Quinton and I were. And I'm on the ground, holding my son. And I looked up at her, and she looked down at me, and not a word. But I saw and felt her soul. I saw through her eyes that she felt responsible. I saw her nightmare. I saw her horror, and my heart broke. My heart broke for her. And not a word, no religion. My thought was, give me that. And we worked for the next 1 year and 51 weeks so she wouldn't serve time. But that's the accident scene. And then from there, Christine was flight for life to Farmington Medical. Was it Southwest Medical in Farmington or whatever it was, a trauma one. You know the term better than I do. They wanted to take me, and I said, no, take my wife. It's like, why are you going to take me? They took me by ambulance to Cortez. I get to Cortez.
And did Quinton go with you? Did Quinton go in a helicopter? Did Quinton stay there?
Quinton they put a blanket on him.
Okay.
Mm.
And I, in my mind, because I don't know, part of my mind thought, they're just keeping him warm.
Mm.
I wasn't ready.
Okay.
I wasn't ready.
They didn't tell you that he had passed?
I think somebody did, but I was in that place of disbelief.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just like, I'm hoping.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping. So Christine goes with the technicians in the helicopter. My mother-in-law, my daughter, and my daughter's best friend come with me. We get to Cortez. I make arrangements. I think at some point on the ambulance ride to Cortez, I asked one of the paramedics, did Quinton make it?
Mm.
and I could read him. It was his first traumatic accident.
Oh.
And he didn't know what to say, but I could read him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I could just read him. And we got to Cortez, and I told my mother-in-law, I said, you got to get to Farmington. When Christine wakes up, you got to tell her.
Yeah.
So they got rides to Farmington. Nice people all over the world.
Wow.
They got rides to Farmington, and they were there to tell her. Meanwhile, I stayed behind. They checked me out, and my road rash, and maybe a small broken bone. And like, how did we survive, right?
Yeah.
How did Christine survive? How did I survive? So.
Wow.
Yeah, we have that. So we have it too. We have the, oh, dear Lord, oh my God, had plenty of moments afterwards where I was like, did this really happen?
Yeah.
When we finally got home, a week later, I looked in my son's room and expected to see him in there.
Yeah.
We had the moments of disbelief. And you know what? Had some rage. Yeah, had some rage.
What did you do with that rage?
Well,
Since you weren't like a religious person, were you like, God, why'd you take him?
Nope.
Or no?
No, wasn't. I mean, I found God through this.
Mm-hmm.
I can't say I would have, but as a 16 years old, I tried to read the Old Testament.
Yeah.
At 34, I tried again, and it had a narrated chronological version of the Bible. And I was taking public transportation trying to save money, and I remember reading that. It's not just 10 Commandments. There's 600 of them. Some of them made me laugh out loud. Just stop there. But yeah, I found God through this.
Yeah.
So
the rage, the anger.
Yeah, the rage.
As you know, and from the interviews and your own personal experience, there's a measure of trying to manage everybody's emotions and so that's kind of the mode I was in. I'm trying to manage emotions. I'm trying to hold it together. And that's an interesting dance. So I get a ride to go down to be with Christine, who's she had to x-ray every bone of her body and yada, yada, yada. She's unmedicated. And I get down there, and my daughter and mother-in-law are in the waiting room. I was looking to tear something down. I had an outlet for my rage. And I'm still bleeding. Mm-hmm. They put a little bandage on. It didn't do anything. And I go to the little door and I look in there at them. I'm ready to go through the wall.
Yeah.
I'm ready to express my rage. Thankfully, they opened the door. Further, and as a coping mechanism, if you will, being a former college scholarship football player, former power lifter, and even, it's my coping mechanism, but I just spent time in the gym.
In the gym. Did you play any organized sports too to try to work any of that out, or was it just solely in the gym?
Just the gym.
Okay.
I maybe in oversharing, I shared a little bit about my childhood, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
The gym was always my place to deal with some depression.
Yeah.
Because I was shy, which probably sounds odd right now. I was painfully shy. And I lived in an environment that evoked fear. So one of my coping mechanisms, whenever I felt down, I'd work out.
Yeah.
And it helped me get my scholarship. So I leaned in on that hard. This is 16 years ago, so I was 44, 45. And I, have good genes. So I could still move some iron around. And I went in there and the guys down there would tease me, say, you trying to try out for the Broncos? I use that rage, and I take, I tell people it's okay to be angry. Mm-hmm. Take it and use it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's no judgment in being angry. It's a natural emotion. Sometimes you need that to get out of bed. Mm-hmm. Fine. Use it to get out of bed. Just be aware at some point it won't serve you as well as it did in the initial.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that, there was that. And then I'm going to just lean in at this point. I am eternally grateful for Quinton and the fact that he broke through to me so quickly.
And what do you mean? What do you mean by that? How did he break through to you?
30 hours after he transitioned, I hadn't slept in 48 hours or so, ballpark. I tried to close my eyes at 6 a.m. This must have been Thursday morning because the accident happened on a Wednesday, I believe. And the first vision was my son's face with dirt in his mouth. It's like, nope, I'm staying awake.
Yeah.
I'm managing other people's emotions. But I'm spoiling for a fight, if that makes sense. The nurses were annoyed with me because they told me I couldn't use my phone, but I was on my phone because you have to manage the process. I have to let my people know what's going on.
Of course.
And I'm, you know what? Make me get off my phone. So I'm all over the place. And I lay down that night and finally try to get some sleep. Our family came around us. My Uncle Jimmy, I think, picked up some pain pills for me or something to help me sleep. And I'm alone in the room by myself, and I feel my hand being held. I mean, it's a physical sensation. I've got no knowledge. I don't know anything from anything. What a great place to start. I've got no beliefs on this, but I know my hand's being held, and I'm trying to make sense of it.
Yeah.
Wow. That must be the manifestation of all the prayers. Most people hadn't found out yet. Took me a while, a few weeks, several weeks to realize it was Quinton. So eventually I realized it was Quinton holding my hand. And the question that I think one person got in my face and asked was, how do you know?
Yeah.
Because my son has the softest hands. And we would all walk hand in hand with Quinton wherever we went. He knew this silly old guy would do the math and figure it out. And that was just the first of many.
And so was that kind of like an eye-opening moment?
No, it wasn't. It was just like, that was strange.
Okay.
I mean, because this is 30 hours after he passed.
Yeah.
I'm in survival mode, and you stay in survival mode. So I'm just like, it's like, that was strange. That was weird. And I nodded off. It was, it was 5 days after Quinton transitioned that it pierced my consciousness. Christine was moved out of the ICU room. She had a private room. We were all taking shifts. I spent some time sleeping at the Marriott Courtyard in Farmington. We had our whole support group around. I woke up and I get a ride back to the hospital. And when I left the lobby, a medicine man walked up to a member of our group, a friend of ours. Her name is Chris Voldrich. She's same age as me, but she's a flower child. She just should have been born earlier. He walked up to her and her daughter, and he walked up and grabbed her hands and said, I've just finished performing a ceremony. A little boy found me, and he wants you to know that he's fine. And somebody named Tom is helping him with his transition, and everything's going to be all right. So Chris hightails it to the hospital. And at that moment, 5 days afterwards, I'm at my breaking point. I'm ready to go into a really dark place. I mean, the timing is interesting. She bursts in there and says, get everybody together. And I'm like, oh no, what now?
This seems like the perfect time to tell you about one of our video sponsors, BetterHelp. I was actually turned on to BetterHelp by one of you, our listeners. He and I were talking and texting about some of the normal things that all of us experience, like anxiety. He described how he needed to seek out a therapist, but he didn't know where to begin. So he used BetterHelp. Using their system, he was matched with a therapist. I believe many of us think about getting help or seeking a therapist, but don't know where to begin. BetterHelp fixes that. BetterHelp is a service that matches your needs with a therapist that has been vetted by the company. If you use our link, you'll get 10% off your first month, and they'll know the podcast sent you. It's a win-win-win. So if you're interested in finding a therapist but don't know where to begin, visit the link in the video description or go to betterhelp.com/LCP. That's betterhelp.com/LCP. LCP stands for Lost Child Podcast. Now let's get back to the rest of the podcast.
She bursts in there and says, "Get everybody together." And I'm like, "Oh no, what now?" And she told what I just told you.
Yeah.
And I literally like, my son's alive. That's for me, that's an opening of a door. I was imagining him alone in the darkness somewhere.
Yeah.
I was in a dark place and I was about to go even darker. And when that happened, my first thought was, my son is alive.
Because what was your mindset before dealing with death? I realized you said you hadn't really, it hadn't ever really impacted you. Had you ever really thought about death at all? Like, did you have some idea? Was it like, we're just gone?
It hadn't touched my soul.
Okay.
The way the transition of my son touched my soul.
Yeah.
My father-in-law, who is like a father to me, he taught me the meaning of family.
Okay.
He passed in 2003. My dad passed later in the same year. I cried for my father-in-law. I didn't cry for my dad.
Yeah.
But it just, what I remember of my mindset was, I remembered how cowardly I was.
Yeah.
Because I knew people who had death in the family, and I knew I didn't show up.
Yeah.
And it was on more than one occasion. So it didn't register. I didn't let it in. I didn't explore it. I didn't research it.
Okay.
I just had nothing. So when it pierced my consciousness from that place of the blackest place you can be,
yeah,
it changed everything.
One thing that I know that you can explain is the lady that came in and relayed that story from the medicine man. She said that your son or this young boy was with somebody named Tom. Can you explain that a little bit more too?
That's a great question.
Yeah, I was wondering who Tom is.
We haven't been able to figure it out.
Really?
Oh, okay.
We don't, because we know a lot of Toms.
Yeah.
So you ought to see Christine and I mean, we're out meeting people and just living life, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And we meet somebody named Tom and we look at each other.
Okay.
We don't know who Tom is, but that's what came through.
Interesting.
Okay.
But that thought was that awakening. My son's alive.
Yeah.
The next thought was, why didn't I know? And my life changed radically from there. I started walking up to strangers, sharing Quinton's signs because the signs were just getting started, and I started reading. The things that came to me first, which is, this is probably going to sound strange, but it's my journey. The things that were given to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Dr. Weiss, Brian Weiss, Many Lives, Many Masters, Messages from the Masters, Michael Newton, The Journey of Souls, Destiny of Souls. The things that came to me were about reincarnation and living life after life and existing between lives. My wife couldn't feel it. She's like, what has it got to do with me? And she's right. It's like, what's this got to do with me and my grief? But for me, coming from a place of having a religion, because my wife has religion,
mm-hmm.
I was like, wow, we really do exist outside of this stuff.
Yeah.
That was like just feeding my soul to jump further down the rabbit hole. So I read literally, 3 dozen books, very new age, new thought, over the course of 2 years. Just, I'm all in.
Mm-hmm.
And
did reading these books, did they make you feel better? Was it just more of like, oh my gosh, like question. you opened up a whole new world and then you kept opening new worlds? Did you agree with everything you read? Did you not? Where was it at?
It's jumping on the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
And yes, they made me feel better.
Yeah.
They did. I mean, I was already, and we get this. Those of us on the grief journey, we get this. You're split open.
Yeah.
You're exposed. You're raw. And that's the information that I was absorbing. And it's nothing like absorbing it the first time. It's like it impacted me big time. I was filled with a sense of love. In reading these books, I was introduced to the concept of soul contracts,
Mm-hmm.
of we write our lives, and
I'm unfamiliar with that term.
Okay.
I've heard it,
Yeah, the soul contract.
but let's maybe dig in a little bit more so that I would understand what that is.
The concept is we exist for lifetimes.
Okay.
I mean, like dozens of lifetimes. Dr. Newton, Michael Newton, Brian Weiss, Messages from the Masters. He was introduced to the concept of reincarnation from a patient of his who he was trying to help, and he hypnotized her. And he said, take me back to where these symptoms that you're experiencing began.
Mm-hmm.
And over the course of several months, she shared 88 or 86 different lifetimes. So that's what I'm saying. So in between those lifetimes, we exist. And there's numerous books out there, and I found some of them.
Okay.
So the concept is between lives, we're on the other side doing whatever we do. I mean, we can argue and fight over it, but we're over there, and there's a decision made to come back. And there's conversation, a decision to you make a decision of what you want to work on. What am I going to work on next lifetime?
Mm.
And that's the soul contract.
So you have multiple soul contracts because it's in between each of the lives that you make a different soul contract.
Yep. And I mean, again, we could lose people.
Yeah.
Where anything I've said of value already could be lost right now.
True.
Because I'm so far off the path.
One of the things that I love about the last time that we chatted, which was just us meeting for the first time, is you said, ultimately, the whole thing is I'm trying to let people know that there's more.
Right.
And whatever that is, you find out what that is.
Right.
Because, and I think that's such a wonderful stance because it's saying, I might be wrong, but I know that there's more. And I don't necessarily know what that is, but I know that there's more, guarantee there's more, right?
Right. No, that's it. Because I mean, we've all met people that are pompous and they think they know everything.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be that guy.
Yeah.
I want to constantly be able to share the epiphany of, wow.
Yeah.
And maybe my journey is unique, but based on all the people I've talked to, it isn't. So that's my go-to. And I signed the book, the first book. We are not dealing with a belief or matter of believing. We're dealing with knowledge.
Yeah.
No, there is more. And I sign, love Ernie and Christine. And I invite them. It's like, you go research, study, if you so choose. You don't have to. And figure out what that means for you. And I mean, and you've interviewed, what, 35, 34 different people?
Yeah.
Everybody's on that journey that's been through this, and they're coming at it from different directions.
Yeah.
And every path is honored.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We're coming to the realization that there is more. And, I lean in. It's like, well, why are we here? Why did this happen to me, right? How many of us have said that? Why did this happen to me?
Yeah.
Somebody told Christine that, and Christine said, why not? But I lean in on the soul contract. I lean in on the human experience.
Yeah.
The human animal doesn't learn when it's easy. We only learn when it hurts.
And you can have a perfect analogy to the weight room with this too, right?
Yeah.
You don't get stronger by
lifting feathers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, you don't. You don't. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's, and anybody, to see it on a podcast, they're going to roll their eyes. Oh, who's that crazy fool?
Yeah.
But to meet somebody face to face and share the energy of that epiphany, that love, that amazement, that gratitude, that wow, there's something more going on, and this is what it looks like in my life. I kind of wanted to save everybody when I figured this out.
Yeah.
And I got a little disenchanted when I couldn't. But anybody that can hear it and feel it, I'm grateful, because that knowledge helps. I know we might talk about that here in a little bit too, but that knowledge has changed the way I live my life.
Wow.
Large, in big picture.
At what point because you said you've written a couple books. At what point after Quinton's passing were you like, hey, I want to write a book. I need to share what I've learned or stuff like that.
I didn't say that.
Okay.
I was literally on fire.
Yeah.
I mean, and my words don't even capture it. I was like glowing.
Like from a timeline though, can you give us a timeline? Was it 3 weeks after whatever, something like that?
I started talking immediately.
And also the other thing that kind of goes into this, when did Christina come home? Christine. When did Christine come home from the hospital?
We were home a week after the accident.
A week. Okay.
But, and you'll talk to her about this, and she's very forthright about it. She was heavily medicated for 2 years.
Okay.
So I'm on this rocket ride.
Yeah.
And she's in a fog, wondering what is wrong with me and not at all happy with me. So I'm talking to everybody I know, and I know a few people. And they listened because they love me, and they listened because they're intrigued.
Yeah.
And somebody said, Ernie, and this was probably 2 or 3 months after Quinton transitioned. He said, Ernie, you got to write a book.
Okay.
I'm not a writer. Doesn't matter. So I came around to that pretty quick, and the book wrote itself.
And what's the title of the first book?
Quinton's Messages.
Okay.
How long did it take you to write it?
The book was in its, raw form. The book was written in a matter of months. I mean, inside of 5. The editing process took longer.
Mm-hmm.
That was painful because I'm not a writer. So it was personal to have some people I don't know tell me what I should be saying.
Yeah.
So I kind of got slow there, but I finally published it 2 years after Quinton transitioned, 2011.
And then what about your second book? When did you write that one?
That one was published in 2015, and that one was hard.
What made you feel like you needed to write another book?
There was more to say. Mm-hmm. To answer the question directly, there were things I wish I had said in the first book.
Okay.
And the funny thing about, and I apologize for anybody on this journey who might be annoyed at me saying the funny thing, but that's where I am in my life, and that's where I was pretty quickly. The funny thing about, what was I going to say? The funny thing about my journey with this, and I lost the thought.
She asked about what made you decide to write the second book. You said that there was more that you had to write. Okay.
I got it back.
Perfect.
The funny thing about my journey is this was so new to me. I felt kind of like I was crazy. Mm-hmm. So as I'm talking to people and they're sharing how their loved ones get through them, I include some of that in both books. So it's documented. It's not just me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. To make it so that you feel like you're not crazy.
Yeah. Because who am I going to talk to? Mm-hmm. I don't have, my support group, nobody's really been through it.
Yeah.
So I'm like, this is also new with me, having no background to it. I had to have something in the book where I've got stories from others, and I have more of that in the second book.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and it happened, and this is the beauty of it. I mean, it happens to everybody. It happens to everybody, no matter what. And I don't want to go down that path too hard, but it happens. That's in my conversations with everybody. Their background didn't matter. Their beliefs didn't matter. Many get the signs. Many wake up and they learn something and they jump down the rabbit hole. Mm-hmm. It's not one group of people that has these experiences and one group of people that doesn't.
Yeah. Even some of the books that we've read, it's across cultures too.
Yeah.
And look, they have similar experiences, and even through the lens of their culture or their background, a lot of the things actually are very similar in what takes place.
Have you read Joseph Campbell?
I've not.
You're talking like Joseph Campbell right now.
What books has he written?
The Power of Myth, A Hero with 1,000 Faces. The thing that turned me on to him, again, our lives on some level maybe prepare us for this. Oh my God.
Yeah.
My life certainly did.
Yeah.
Okay. I got turned on to Joseph Campbell watching his interview with Bill Moyer on the CBS network. It was in like 1986, 1988. Yes, I'm older than you. But he spent his whole career studying cultures.
Okay.
Worldwide and religions. He studied everything. And you just almost quoted him.
Okay.
That these different cultures and religions have the same myths and say much the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
How did that happen?
Yeah.
One thing that I'm intrigued on too of what you said is this helped you find God. Was this your path to find God? Is all of these things, or how did you come to know God?
I had a dear friend of mine, and the people we surround ourselves with, who they make us, right?
Yeah.
We are who we surround ourselves with. And I had a dear friend, I actually write about in the second book, Les Pendleton, 5th generation Coloradian, devout in his faith. And he saw me on my journey. He came to me one day, 2 years in, and he's crying.
Mm-hmm.
He says, Ernie, dude, you got to read the New Testament.
Yeah.
He says, start with the Gospels. Start with John. You know what? I've learned to take instruction. So I read the New Testament and I read the red print. Wow. And again, still reading from that place of being split open.
Yeah.
And of just soaking it in.
Yeah.
Love the red print. Love the words of Jesus Christ.
Mm-hmm.
Love everyone.
Yeah.
My God. No judgment.
Mm-hmm.
Forgiveness.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I forgave at the accident scene without knowing the F word, without knowing forgiveness. Mm-hmm. And the funny thing about that is with everything I read prior, in reading the Gospels, I could point out where we're talking about reincarnation without using the R word.
Oh, wow.
Pretty cool. Pretty cool. And then going, how far down the rabbit hole do you want to go? And this isn't about reincarnations per se, but reincarnation was believed in long before the Bible was written. The Council of Nicaea decided what books were going to go in the Bible, and anything referring to reincarnation was not included. They tried to scrub it out. Didn't quite get the job done. That's okay. The words are still beautiful. Mm-hmm. And then there's heaven is for real, right? Mm-hmm. We've talked about that a little bit over coffee.
Yeah.
And Jesus Christ and what the young man saw when he was on the other side, sitting on Jesus' lap.
Yeah. What would you say are the things that helped you in those first 5 years, 10-year period?
Pumping iron, for sure.
For sure. For sure. There was that. To be brutally honest, it was sharing. It was
sharing
talking.
With others, writing a book.
It was
giving
talking.
Talks.
I was very literally on fire.
Yeah.
Trying to talk to as many people as I could, trying to help as many people as I could. And I look back, well, to answer the question, that really short-circuited my grief from a certain perspective.
Okay.
Sometimes I wonder if I ever really grieved, for a long period of time, because I was so lit up, that I dove in. And we talk about this all the time with people who go through it, and what do? They go right back to work, right? Mm-hmm. Well, we know what they're doing. Sometimes I wonder if maybe that's what I did.
Did you go right back to work?
Well, not my job.
Okay.
Because my job took on far less meaning. The job I do to collect a check took on far less meaning. That used to define me.
Yeah.
It no longer does.
Yeah.
Now my work is, how may I serve?
Yeah.
Who can I help? So it's a different kind of work. And
did that specific job go away? Did you quit that job? Did you get fired, or what happened with the job that you had?
Have you looked me up on LinkedIn? As we know, and for your listeners, it's a whole new normal.
Oh yeah.
Everything's different. So beforehand, I would keep jobs for a long period of time. And afterwards, I tend to move around.
Okay.
jobs aren't near as important. Specifically this job that I had, I took a disability. I tried to come back. It wasn't the same.
Yeah.
I came back to talk about Quinton.
Yeah.
I came back because the beautiful thing about my job is I meet lots of people.
Yeah.
And even today, I meet people and I talk about Quinton. I sometimes try not to. I'm like, I'm not. And they say something and I'm like, oh, you shouldn't have said that.
You opened up a can of worms.
I'm always talking about Quinton.
Yeah.
I mean,
or not a can of worms. He opened a can of root beer.
Can of root beer.
Just for Quinton.
But you got to see that firsthand in the email I sent.
Yeah.
They know me. They know me. And whenever I hit them with that, there's a shift in their own minds.
Yeah.
Even if it's only for a moment where they think, yeah, the things I thought were important really aren't.
Yeah.
So really what has helped you the most is kind of getting out of yourself and going out there and sharing things and trying to help other people as opposed to just living in your own grief.
Maybe just like you too, a little bit. Maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and for me, that's God.
Yeah.
God uses us.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
And I don't care what name you call God. You can have a different faith altogether.
Mm-hmm.
But God uses us.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And we get to help. And, and I still have this little, it's like, why couldn't I help more? That's another form of the disease, the Kool-Aid syndrome, if you will. Because the flip side is between Quinton and Christine and myself, we've touched some people.
Yeah.
We made a difference.
If you feel comfortable without maybe sharing names, if you want to protect those people, but do you have any anecdotal evidence of some of those that you helped that you could share?
Oh boy. Yeah. Where do I start? In the first book, this was going back at the Quinton service. Quinton passed on June 10th, 2009. The service was June 19th. My association community, BOMA, Building Owners and Managers Association, came to the service. We're all property managers who give our best to the world, and we let the world grind us into dust. We're property managers and vendors. And there's a gentleman there. They wrote me a letter afterwards. And he said, Ernie, I was there to comfort you, and I came up to you, and I realized you were comforting me.
Wow.
Hmm.
And he said, after that conversation, I did something I'd never done before. I went home. It was only, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I went home to be with my family. I'd never done that before.
Yeah.
I'm more balanced now. I've heard that dozens, I don't want to exaggerate. I won't say hundreds. Dozens of times.
Almost hundreds. You can say almost hundreds. That's all how you frame it.
I've heard that dozens of times.
Yeah.
My community that walked with me along the Front Range of Colorado, they still live it to one level or another because it was so intimate. I'm seeing it now with this new to me. I mean, I saw it just last week.
Yeah.
I sent the email that I sent, and an individual who was rather negative a couple of days before was much more positive the next day.
Wow.
Call it a coincidence. Yeah, it's here's the gift that Christine always reminds me. She says, honey, it's not yours to know. It's not ours to know if we've made a difference.
Yeah.
Just know that you have.
Hmm.
That's kind of where I'm at.
I had that same thought because even with the podcast, was kind of like, am I really making a difference or not? Like, why am I even doing this? And that was the thought that came to me is like, quit worrying about it and just keep doing the thing you're doing.
100%.
Yeah.
If you ever need a pep talk, call me up. No, you're doing the work. Just don't make it about ego. Do the work.
Yeah.
Honor the work.
Mm-hmm.
Don't worry about who feels you and who doesn't. It's a numbers game. If 10% of the people who log in they learn something that they can apply in their life, you've done well.
Yeah.
If it's higher than that, boy, that's good stuff, but it's not about that.
Yeah.
Maybe it's only one person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
One of the things I read, another Michael Newton story, Journey of Souls, Destiny of Souls. This one particular old soul came back and lived a life as a homeless person. Just lived an awful life to help one person. And there's somebody out there right now, it's like, who cares? But what if that's true? That's wild.
Yeah.
I mean, we live a lifetime and we're not perfect. Not a one of us is perfect.
No.
We all have flaws.
Yes.
Otherwise, we wouldn't be here. We're here to work on stuff and experience and love and help others. But you know what? Don't get caught up in the mistakes, which we all remember the mistakes and we forget the good stuff. Please, please, please lean into the good stuff. Lean into, the good experiences with our kids. Lean into how we help somebody, even if it's for a moment. And let's not beat ourselves up with oops. Yeah, I'm a human being after all. Darn.
But even in that pointed thing, I would think as an athlete, right? You look at a game, at least the way that I would look at a game, is I could go through like the 7 plays that were awful that I messed up on. And it was like a highlight reel of the good stuff, which is cool. But I always remembered all of those things that I messed up on. Is it the same? Were you the same that way from an athlete standpoint, that you focused on the negative and how to fix those things as opposed to overwhelming on the positives?
As a human being, we can't help ourselves.
Yeah.
I mean, today still, I remember the tough stuff and I've forgotten much of the good.
Yeah.
From that perspective, though, I ended up coaching high school football at my alma mater after Quinton transitioned because of my people who told me, yeah, you're going to do this.
Yeah.
And I was the guy that would walk up to the players when there was a oops.
Yeah.
And when the other coaches were yelling and screaming and shouting and trying to abuse him.
Yeah.
I would walk up and I'd put my arm around him and say, you're okay. What did you learn?
Mm-hmm.
Good lesson.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to be okay. That's how God uses us.
Yeah.
100%. That's why we're here.
How did Quinton's transition impact your relationship with your family or friends? Did your family or friend group shift? Did it stay the same? Did you get stronger relationships? Did some of them kind of
Nope.
feather
You nailed
out?
it. All of it.
Okay.
All of it. I try to be as real as I can. My story, and we all have a story. My story is I wasn't like this beforehand. I've told my story publicly and people walk up to me and say, Ernie, you're not telling the truth. You talked like this before. I just didn't remember. I've always had that vibe, and I was unaware, but I've always tried to help.
Yeah.
I've always tried to serve. So when this happened, I can't really say I lost friends. I get what you're saying though, because I've read about it 100 of times, and I actually joke about it, which is rude. It's like people think it's contagious, right? It's like you go through something awful like this, and they're like, oh, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to be around them. It might be contagious.
Yeah.
No, it's not. So I didn't experience that per se.
You said a really strong community.
Strong community. And, I'm not even going to try to tell you why. Then I'm trying to create a story, different story, but I'm blessed.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Christine and I, there's an interesting conversation. Christine and I were having some problems before the accident. And immediately afterwards, it looked like it wasn't going to last.
Yeah. With some of this, we can leave it as a cliffhanger.
Yes.
Okay.
Because we're doing an interview.
We're going to bring both of you back on, you can share that then. Because that'd be good with both of you. Good. So we'll leave that as a cliffhanger. Look for that new podcast coming out, which is going to be you and your wife. And we can talk about kind of the relationship stuff that happened, where you were before, kind of what happened after Quinton, and where you guys are today. And even potentially somebody told you that you weren't even going to make it. And now you're here.
Oh, yeah.
Making it.
All right. That's a good cliffhanger.
one question that I really love to ask is if you were to be able to go back, and I realize the thing that happened with Quinton, him holding your hand type of thing happened like 3 days after, whatever, 2 days after, 30 hours. There was a 3 in there, I knew. So this one might not be as good of a question, but a lot of times I say, if you were to go back right after it happened and you could tell yourself something to just help yourself, what would you say?
Whatever I might come up with would be meaningless. In that void of pain, everything happened the way it needed to happen.
Yeah.
Everything. I mean, from Quinton holding my hand to being annoyed with people, with trying to keep the rage at bay, with the piercing of my consciousness that he still is, with all of the conversations I had afterwards that underlined and shined a light on that fact that there is more. Nothing I could have gone back and said would have prepared me for that. It would have been unbelievable. I wouldn't have believed it. I mean, I could go on and on and on about some of my experiences. I think I might have mentioned one over coffee about a lady who was 12 when her mom passed. And
oh yeah, she came up to you.
Yeah.
And then her dad said, don't talk about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's nothing could have prepared me for the journey since. No words. I wouldn't have believed it. I would have said, you're crazy. Get out of here.
You weren't in the right state of mind to be able to hear yourself say those things.
Right. Because I mean, my journey has been so surreal.
Yeah.
It's like, it's almost unbelievable, but it's mine. And I feel grateful and I feel blessed. And you'd be surprised how many of us talk like this. Say, don't get me or anybody else wrong. I wish it hadn't happened.
Yeah.
I wish Quinton was still here.
There's still the pain.
Yeah, there was, I mean, not long after Quinton transitioned, Michael Jackson transitioned,
Mm.
and the world lost his mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was not happy.
Yeah.
I'm like, you know what? I like Michael Jackson like anybody else, but nobody's talking about my son.
Yeah.
So there's always that underlying current of, you know, that everybody comes, supports us,
Mm-hmm.
and they got to get back to work.
Yeah.
Of course.
And we're left to figure it out on our own.
Yeah.
And some that's a hard journey.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they're finding you on your podcast. That's a hard journey. And the message is, reach out, find somebody, somehow, some way. Don't do it alone.
Yeah.
For sure.
Because there are a lot of people that do, and it sometimes doesn't turn out well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. One question that has come up a couple times to me of people that have gone through death of a child, and they're pretty new, pretty fresh. And their question is, does it get better? How would you answer that?
It's not, I mean, there's that empty answer, you know, that yes, it gets better. But the better answer is it's a new normal.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people ask, when are you going to get back to normal? And that's a rude question.
Yeah.
I'm not going back to where I was. In my mind, I'll never be that person again.
Of
Yeah.
course.
The vibe you get off me will never be the same. Not exactly the way it was. It's a whole new normal.
Yeah.
It's a whole new gig.
Mm-hmm.
The answer to the question is, sadly, but to be direct, do the work.
Yeah.
Whatever that is. No judgment. There's no right or wrong. Do the work. Don't sit alone in a room. Don't climb into a bottle of pick your poison. Please don't. They may help you for a measure, but get out as soon as you can and connect with people.
Mm-hmm.
We are made to connect with each other, and we love each other, and we're going to help each other. You know, reach out to you too.
Yeah.
Find me. You'd be shocked at how many people are out there setting ready, willing, and able to help.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say anything stupid like, when are you going to get back to normal?
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a new normal. It's always there. It's waves. You feel it. I mean, today, I see people Quinton's age, and sometimes it's like, yeah, you always feel it.
Yeah. And even from a coach standpoint, relating back to the sports version of it too, right? Is sometimes you do need a coach that's like, get back in the game, like, let's go. And other times you need a coach that's like, hey, you kind of screwed up there. Like, what'd you learn, right? Yeah. And there's those different personalities to help you go. 100%. That's why certain players go to certain colleges. This is because the vibe that they get from the coach, and they want that type of coaching. Yeah.
No, and I'm glad you brought that up because, I mean, we know, all of us, we've been through it.
Yeah.
We've been through hell. And you get up and you get the flames off.
Yep.
You get up and you start walking again. So when I was coaching football, these young men, 16, 17, 18 years old, we were doing pretty good. But every now and then we get it handed to us.
Yeah.
And that's when they really needed me. So these young men would be crying. They'd be despondent. They'd just feel awful. That's when I walk up and I remind them why I'm here.
Yeah.
I remind them of the pain that I've walked through. And I tell them, this is just an opportunity to get better.
Yeah.
Do the work. Get back in the gym. Work harder. This is just a reminder that we can be better.
Yeah.
And I'm coming from a place of, I've been through it and you know my background. You know what? Some people hear me.
Some of the key takeaways that I would take from you is definitely what you have done is you read a ton of books and you did a bunch of research, opened a whole new world, and you just soaked it all in. And then you started sharing with other people. But in sharing, it was really trying to help others. Mm-hmm. And then also, I think another key is forgiveness. We didn't go into a whole bunch of forgiveness, but the instant forgiveness that you gave, I think is amazing. So
thank you.
Thank you for coming on the podcast and sharing your story with us.
I'm honored. Thanks for asking. Anytime.
Yeah. Thanks so much.
Thanks for joining us on the Lost Child podcast. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe and remember, shine bright, and we'll see you in the next episode.